Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Agile 20 Reflect Festival. As we all know, Agile 20 Reflect Festival, the main purpose of this festival is to celebrate the 20 years of Agile Manifesto. And the themes for this event, this festival, is past, current, and future of the agility and agile communities. Well, today I'm very excited to introduce to you our guest speaker, and probably be wondering why I'm excited. I'm excited because his topic will be very relevant to us all, and he'll be talking on the topic managing complexity and agility. Just a brief background. He's a project management professional with exposure in oriented and a resourceful problem solver with keen interest in innovation, strategy, product development, and project management. He developed strong strategic planning, leadership, presentation, and communication skills through work experience to achieving goals with a... Hello, Jeremy.
Hi, Annabelle.
Yeah, over to you.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me, and as always, it's a pleasure and I'm honored to have this opportunity. Now, as shown in the agenda, and as Annabelle rightly said, I have the privilege of speaking on the topic of managing complexity with Agile. Now, I believe this is quite an interesting topic as well, and I think it's because we're living in quite complex times. Now, the effects of 2020 are yet to wear off, and increasingly more and more companies and individuals are looking for ways to manage their complexity. So seeing as we're reflecting on 20 years of Agile, I chose to come at this from my own angle of reflection on my Agile journey. So in 2020, after being introduced to the whole Agile world by Nana and the Akaditi team, I made a decision to transition from a career in traditional banking into the more Agile and Fintech space. And in the last year, it has been quite interesting observing some of the differences between the two. And I will use those experiences to highlight how complexity is managed in a more agile environment. So I usually prefer my presentations not to be a long, continuous lecture. So I will be using a series of 1 to 2 minute clips to buttress my points, so at least keep it engaging. So with your permission, I will share my screen and we can jump straight into it. Okay, can you confirm if you can see my screen clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. Right. So because I will be using the Agile company I work with and as my source of reference for some of the points that I will be putting out, I think I will first give you a brief as to what the company I work with. So I work with a large financial technology company called Jumo, and Jumo is a multinational fintech that provides or that uses advanced data science and machine learning algorithms, as well as a full stack end-to-end technology to develop mobile financial services. What that basically means is we partner with banks and fintechs to be able to come up with innovative products for the financially excluded. And that helps a lot. And that helps a lot to close or to lessen the financial inclusion gap. So what we do is we try and find ways to provide these services in a fast, easy, convenient, and inclusive way using mobile technology, which is easily accessible, so that those who may not have access to formal financial institutions because of proximity, or just may not have the kind of profiles that the institutions are asking for, can access them anywhere and everywhere. So if you're in Ghana and you're familiar with the mobile money menu, and you've seen either a quick loan or express loan or a Ahunka loan, that is the company that I work with. I find that it's easier to explain what a company does with animation and video. So if you indulge me, here's the first clip of what the company does and how the product works. Enjoy. Actually, wait 1 second. Let me share with sound so that everyone can hear fully. All right. All right. Awesome. So we are currently present in 7 live markets across Africa. We have our head office in Cape Town, South Africa, as well as a few other dispersed locations. And we are present in Ghana, Kenya, Pakistan, Tanzania, Zambia, Cote d'Ivoire, with a few more coming in. So in Ghana, like I said, we have these products with the largest telco. And what we essentially do is we try and partner with large banks and telcos to create an ecosystem where we can gather as much data as we can on customers. And based on that data, we're able to get the customer's digital footprint and build products and services around that footprint. So just by the virtue of the fact that you're using your mobile phone right now and you're connected to a mobile network operator, you have a digital footprint or a digital profile based on which someone can model a product or service to better fit you or better suit your needs. So I don't want to go into the numbers too much because they're all available on the site. But now moving on with managing complexity with Agile. So I think 3 of the very main things that I noticed after I made my transition from a traditional environment to a more Agile environment is the fact that right from the thinking, the mindset, as we say in Agile, the Agile mindset, there's a very big shift in mindset from a traditional environment to a more Agile environment in terms of how things are thought through, in terms of the approach, in terms of what is classified as productive work versus what is classified as busy work. Secondly is the environment. We all know that an inspiring environment can get you to perform at your best or can dampen your spirits and not make you give up as much of your best. So coming from a more traditional environment to a more Agile environment, the differences were clearly noticeable, and it was quite interesting to observe. The next is the approach to problem solving. I think that coming from a traditional point of view, there is a standardized approach or standardized technique via which problems are solved, and it varies significantly to the mindset or the approach that is taken in a more Agile environment. And so these are the high-level things that I would starting on. All right, so starting first with the mindset. So as we say, the Agile mindset is you become Agile. Agile is not something that you do. And so one of the first things that I noticed was the fact that the way of thinking in the traditional or the more in the more traditional environment was sort of standardized. You could say in the more waterfall process. So, for example, I was working in a bank, and I hope none of my former colleagues are here. But working in a bank, you can understand that there has been a standard way of doing things for the last 100 or so years. And any kind of deviation from that was not really well received. And even when there was a process of change, it took such a long time for people to get accustomed to it. And most people were reluctant either because they didn't want to be the one to be the face when there was a failure. They really did not know much about this new field or this new whole agile thing that you're talking about. And there was just a lot of hesitancy and skepticism when it comes to any kind of change. And as you can expect, change is always hard at the beginning, and not a lot of people have the wherewithal to make it through that change. However, transitioning into the agile environment, you realize that change is more welcomed. So right off the bat, you can tell that a lot of the 12 principles and 4 values that we talk about in Agile were very present. And I like this analogy of the onion mindset, where it starts first with the mindset, then goes to the values, the principles, the practices, and then the tools and processes. But without that mindset, you never get to the point where you're actually doing Agile or being Agile, or combining the two in a way that is most effective. So the mindset shift is very clear because, one, the organization is constantly learning. The whole point of experimentation and failing fast is really present. The structure in itself is facilitating that kind of learning. So you're allowed to experiment, you're allowed to come up with new ideas, you're allowed to suggest and run with ideas that you come with. I have this funny story where of rigidity in the bank where I say that I was once approached by our HR director when I was working in the bank because, one, she felt that my ringtone was not corporate because I like to listen to different genres of music, and apparently listening to more up-tempo hip-hop type music was not even listening to it, just having that as your ringtone was not acceptable according to her. As additionally, going to the gym and working out and looking buff and hench meant that your body wasn't corporate, and it also wasn't acceptable. Now, that is something that you would never hear in a fintech environment. I think the first day I stepped into that environment, I noticed that even the developers were showing up in the most casual outfits possible that would never have been accepted. But you can tell that the focus there is on productivity, much less on the appearance of productivity. So they're focused on your output rather than the busy work, rather than those decorative things that make you look busy without actually being productive. So you can tell that it all starts from the mindset. And without that mindset, no progress comes, and you can be doing Agile without being Agile. I know that in the former traditional environments now, lots of companies are embarking on digital transformation and drives and setting up digital office, innovation office, incubators, and the like. But what you tend to find is a number of these traditional companies are doing this because it's either the pet project of one of the executives, or they are trying to keep up with competition. They're seeing that others in the traditional space are doing it, so they are following suit. But you can realize that the mindset is still lacking because all the blockers, all the impediments that are in the traditional environment are being carried over into these new digital or these new Agile environments. And you can tell that they are doing Agile rather than being Agile. And eventually it catches up to you and no progress is made. So that was the first thing I noticed in that transition. It was starting with the mindset. So in Jumo, the way of working there is typical to the Agile way. So for example, every Monday we have a company-wide stand-up, and we announcements are made. We basically answer those 3 questions: what we're doing, what the company is doing, what we did in the previous week, and what we're going to do. Very similar to the daily stand-up, but this one is company-wide. The Agile Manifesto is the bread and butter. We always make sure that we're doing our best to comply and follow what the Agile Manifesto says. We work in sprints because we're largely a technology company, so the primary percentage of the population of the company is engineering. And so we have these cross-functional roles, and we have the regular Scrum events and series. So we basically combine sort of the Scrum, Kanban approach to Agile so that we are visualizing as well as going through the ceremonies that are going to help us get to the end goals of each of these sprints, right? Next would be the environment. Sorry, I'm seeing a question. All right, I'm seeing the question and I think I'll answer it as I go along. So the company-wide stand-up does not take more than 30 minutes. And the actual aspect of the stand-up where we focus on the updates and talking about impediments doesn't last more than 20 minutes, but there are some additional words because most of the time you always hear a word from the founder or CEO, which could probably take about 10 minutes because he usually wants to share a word, either motivate the team or make certain announcements or certain big wins that a company has gotten so that we know exactly where we stand at all times. So there's always clear transparency and visibility in that regard. I think I'm seeing another one. All right, great. So the next thing is the workspace. Now, coming from a traditional environment, you can imagine that we all worked in cubicles and the workspace was really commensurate with the kind of work we did. For example, you're in a bank, so you really don't have the kind of things like, I usually joke about this. The first time I saw an in-office yoga session, I was just taken aback because this was not something that was commonplace where I was seeing. I accidentally entered a room once where there was mid-afternoon massages taking place, and I just could not understand. I thought it was, for lack of a better word, illegal. Then I found out that this was a normal part of the company's routine because they were very focused on having that work-life balance, and they wanted an environment where people could look forward to coming to and bring up their best selves. There's also that flexibility for those who are not the most productive when they're in an office environment. So there was remote working back then, even before the advent of COVID, where a lot of people are now exploring remote working. Back then, there was a standardized system where if you wanted to work from home, if you wanted to work from an environment where you felt more comfortable, you were allowed to. However, the office itself also presented all the different variables of an agile workspace. So you could have the open areas where people could share information, where you could make use of that tacit knowledge, that flow of information from overhearing people converse. You could share ideas, the caves and commons, where if you needed that kind of privacy so that you could work for a period of time without being interrupted and then come back and then consult, that was also available for you. So you could tell that there was such a big difference in the agile workspace versus the traditional workspace. The traditional workspace is more of cubicles and like rigid meeting rooms where everything was basically by the book. Where the agile workspace, you would see a lot more of the unconventional items. But I think maybe I may not be giving it as much color as it is. So once again, I like to use the videos to illustrate that. So enjoy.
When I joined, our offices were far more bland than they are now. And one of our breakaways, we had a rocket ship analogy. Like Jumo is a rocket ship and we're blasting into outer space. And that's just spiraled. And now we have Star Wars themes everywhere and Yoda on the wall.
I almost was fired on my first day when I asked what was up with the Star Trek theme. And being told that it was under no circumstances anything to do with Star Trek and more to do with Star Wars, I think had certain people wondering if they'd made the right hire.
I mean, I think that it is literally like we are working in a rocket ship. Like every person, every team has their tiny little piece that they have to do, and they're specialists in those aspects. And also what we do is, it's almost like we're going into outer space because it's uncharted territory.
We call people who work at Jumo-nauts. We have a big space theme here. The offices are styled as in Star Wars primarily, and we're quite sort of nerdy in a way. So, and we're proud of that. I think we like being different. So I think Jumo-nauts typically are very proud of the mission that they're on. They are they normally have a very strong technical ability and are capable of working in a slightly unreasonable environment in terms of the problems that we're solving. We have to cover a lot of ground very quickly. So I think the space analogy is a good one. It doesn't tend to be normal people who build rockets.
Awesome. So I think from that, you can understand what I mean by the agile working environment. So apart from our company, I've noticed a number of other companies adopting different agile workspaces based on themes, but you realize that they all try and strive for the very same thing. So trying to have that environment where you have that flexibility, you look forward to coming to work. You also have that peace of mind and that freedom to be able to be inspired, such that if you came up with an idea, you are free to start writing on the walls, putting up your Post-it notes. There's Kanban boards all over the place, and it's a very inspiring workplace and environment to be in. So I think that illustrates exactly what by the environment. The next is the approach or methodology, and this encompasses a lot of things, because I think this was the most relevant difference that I saw when I was there, or what I noticed when I made that transition. So the first thing was the fact that you're allowed to fail fast and recover quickly. And as the acronym says, failing is your first attempt at learning. The big difference in a traditional institution is that failure is avoided as much as possible within a traditional environment. As much as possible, you try to narrow the scope of losses or the scope of mistakes that you make. And in that process, you restrict how much learning can be done, because there's a saying that says that businesses either focus on making money for billionaires or making money for billions of people. So the business is focused on making money for the most return for the shareholders, or rather focused on the customers and giving them the best value possible. So you really have to understand the mindset that the traditional environment has, in the sense that when it comes to the agile environment, usually the customer is the focus of everything that happens. So what you're trying to do, and because they are more specialized in their area, they usually try and do what they can to provide the best value for the customer in terms of the customer experience, in terms of the customer journey, in terms of how you even work the speed to market. So you're allowed to experiment. You're allowed to come up with ideas, test them out. And if you fail, it's considered as learning. It's not seen as a failure. It's not seen as a knock on you. It's actually seen as being proactive. Whereas in the traditional environment, losses are basically unacceptable. For example, at the end of the year, you have these rigid company targets that you're supposed to hit. And automatically, I think it's the same thing that we face as individuals when it comes to our sort of like personal goals or New Year resolutions. The reasons why a lot of people abandon those kind of goals is because you automatically have this internal contract with yourself where until you hit those goals, you're not happy until you meet those goals. So rather than focusing on the end goal, you really have to focus on the process. And that is one of the things that I realized that in the agile environment, there is more focus on. So there's more focus on the system of experimenting, failing quickly, learning faster. And in that process, you arrive at the goals without having to feel like you're less than until you hit those goals. But in a traditional environment, the target is constantly what is being monitored. And until you hit that target, you are not successful. So I think that is one of the things that I noticed. The second thing is the cross-functional team. Now, I'm coming from an environment where each department is focused on one thing. And even though we're all in the whole sort of ship or vehicle of a bank, you realize that you are more likely to find silos within that traditional environment. Whereas in the more agile environment, cross-functionality is really more encouraged. In fact, the way the business is set up, there is no way you can make progress without that cross-functionality. And that is simply because the business is built with one goal in mind, which is to give the customer the best value or to fill a gap that exists in the market. And the only way to achieve this is to leverage on the skills and ideas of all the other units. So if anything is to move ahead, you cannot do this in isolation because you basically just don't have as much insights or capabilities. Plus, the team is not as large, and which makes it more efficient and more effective to be able to leverage up the skills of other people. Whereas in the larger, more rigid institutions, you find that two different units could be doing very similar things without ever communicating, and you realize that in that process they are held back, and time to market extended, and that free flow of communication is not really there. The next thing is in the quality of the people or the type of people who are there. So in the traditional environment, you're required to be a specialist. So even though the services offered are more generalized, each person recruited is recruited for a special skill. So for example, you're in accounting as a finance consultant, or you're in retail as sort of a relationship manager. You're not expected to be a relationship manager who is also able to code or develop. That really doesn't exist. However, in the agile environments, they really encourage that whole cross-functionality, that generalizing specialist profile. So you have somebody who is able to work within or has one functional area or discipline or specialty, but also able to work outside that core area. So that is where you will find a strategic partnerships manager who also has the ability to develop software. You find a portfolio manager who also has the benefit of being able to manage relationships. So they really look for that person who is not one-dimensional, because in that ability, you are able to better help the team. You are able to fill in for others when they are not there. And just based on the fact that you've constantly looked to expand outside of that comfort zone, you adapt quicker to that agile environment. Then lastly is the approach to development. So similar to what I was saying when I talked about failing fast and recovering quickly, large problems are broken down into small manageable tasks and are addressed in the form of sprints, as opposed to, like I said, setting that large end goal that you're trying to hit, and everything that you do is focused on trying to hit that end goal without so much focus on the actual systems that are in place that facilitate that. So it's really going to be a lot of strategic planning to come up with what that blueprint for the end goal is going to look like. Then ad hoc strategies and tactics are going to be leveraged to try and push you in the direction of that goal. And you are not allowed to be sort of happy until you've actually hit the goal. And your entire success or the entire success of your team or company is going to be hindered until you've actually hit that goal. Whereas in the agile environment, you experiment, you break down larger objectives into smaller, more manageable tasks. You work in sprints, and at the end of each sprint, you have that increment that you can celebrate and then move on to the next sprint. So you can see that incremental growth happening all the time. And that's the reason why in every sort of company-wide stand-up, we announce what the wins have been, we announce what the failures have been, and we know that we are learning faster, failing quickly, but then ultimately we are moving towards the goal in a more sort of engaging and progressive way. So I think that some of these are the how do I say? These are some of the elements of working in an agile environment that were most appealing. And one of the things that we always strive for is to make sure that the various components that propel the team forward are always working in harmony, because the whole point is to get the team to the point where we're working as a well-oiled engine. And we have this analogy of Formula One racers. So everybody knows the famous drivers who are driving in these Formula One races. The people who are not acknowledged as much are the guys who handle the maintenance at the pit stop. So without those guys, the person leading would not be able to go. So as much as we see the face or the driver's face, and that is where we give them the most acknowledgement, you know that there's an entire team behind that is supporting and driving them. And without that sort of cross-functionality, nothing happens. So I think that there's an analogy that we use that, in fact, let me take it back and say it this way. So for example, the human eye is said to blink about 20 times per minute, which comes to about 3 times per second. However, when it comes to the Formula One McLaren or Formula One pit stop, they are required to be able to change the car's tires, change fuel, and do everything in less than 2 seconds. In fact, the world record is even less than that. So that is the very definition of a team that is working in harmony, that is having the same shared values, that is on the same path, and they have experimented to the point where they've known how to cut down the time to that level where they are able to perform so quickly, respond to change so quickly, and allow the vehicle to continue moving with minimal time wasted. And I think that is the whole goal of the company using the Agile methodology, where we're responsive, where everybody is working in harmony, where everything is done on time, and there's speed and there's pace, and everybody is leveraging on each other's strengths and depending on each other such that we propel the vehicle forward. Like I said, I like to use videos to illustrate the points. So this is a video of the world record Formula One pit stop, and I suggest you don't blink because you could miss out. All right. So that has been my journey into Agile, watching how Agile environments and companies manage complexity using the Agile methodology. I've been queued that my 30 minutes are up, and I now open the floor for any kind of questions or requests that you may have. Floor is open.
Thank you, Jeremy. If you have any question or contribution, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can use the chat box. Jeremy, there's a question for you in the chat box. It says, how long does the company-wide stand-up take? From Dennis.
Yeah, I think I answered that during the speech. So I was saying that usually it takes maximum of 15 minutes, but can extend to 30 minutes if the founder or CEO wants to make a special announcement as to a win that the company has obtained, if we've signed on a big deal, if we're able to deliver a revolutionary new product in the market. So it usually follows the same format of a 15-minute stand-up. It never goes beyond 30 minutes. That's how long it takes.
Okay. Dennis, I hope you've been answered. Any other question?
Yes, please. Here's Mace. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much for this great presentation and these great examples, especially with the formula. And my question is, I want to be a Scrum Master, and I did one of the courses and certification. And my question is, like you said something about the values, principles, and the mindset. And like, do you advise me, for example, to focus on all of these simultaneously, or to focus, for example, on the mindset only at the beginning? You know, also for me, for this mindset change, because you said you came from a banking background. And yeah, where to start? Probably for me as a person, as Scrum Master, and probably later with my team. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that question. And I think that's a really, really good question. So I think that is the same question that I had coming from a traditional background in banking. So because I had been programmed for the last decade to the more traditional mindset, it was difficult to understand this new way of working. And even though I took the certification and I was able to learn the values and the principles, I think the mindset is the thing that takes the longest time, or is the one thing that you have to unlearn everything that you have if you are like me in order to have, because the mindset of Agile is one that is more progressive, one that is more growth oriented, and one that is not static. So if I could ask you to focus on one aspect, because that would be the hardest, and I don't think that you need to, I don't think that one comes before the other. You can learn the values and the principles, but then learning the mindset is a progressive thing. So you first start by learning the values, the principles. You first start by doing Agile, doing the ceremonies, doing all of that, and then the mindset follows. But you always have to keep in mind that the fact that you're doing the ceremonies doesn't mean that you're being Agile. Being Agile extends to you becoming more of an evangelist, you be able to share the word, you looking for opportunities for growth, quicker, faster, more efficient, and easier ways to do things. The whole aspect of collaboration, focus, courage, all of those strong values and others. And if that ultimately leads to the point where you are the consummate Scrum Master who is able to be dispensable, but also indispensable, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think I'm seeing other questions. How do you deal with company? Okay, that question did not end. How can you suggest one to handle the transition from a traditional model to an agile model in an organization? Great. I think that for me, the one piece of advice that I was given when I was making the transition was to be open-minded. Be open-minded in the sense that to understand that everything that you have learned up until this point is about to be changed in a way that you may not be comfortable with. So there's a standard way that you've learned how to do things, but you need to have that mindset of openness to change, that willingness to unlearn what you already know and then go in. It's similar to the transition from going to school, from actually getting into the working environment, right? So we are taught a lot of things in school that may or may not apply to the working environment. So once you get to the working environment, if you only want to hold on fast to what you've learned in school, then it's very difficult for you to learn anything that comes with experience or practice. So in the same way, once you've been in a traditional environment where you're going through the whole waterfall method, starting with initiation, planning, execution, and now you're coming to an environment where it's saying that you need to do this in a more cyclical way in shorter sprints, you first have to, it starts with the mind first. You have to have that open-mindedness and then the willingness to learn and grow and understand what is outside that space that you have come from in order to make that transition more effective from you. So like similar to the question from Ice, I think it starts with the mindset. All right. Hope that answers that, Zuri. The next question is, how do you deal with company-wide impediments? Wow, that's a big one. I don't know who asked this question, but could you provide a little bit more detail? When you say company-wide impediments, can you provide a little bit more clarity on that, Sam?
All right. Thank you so much, Jeremy. The issue right here is that because you said in your company, mostly you do stand-up with all the companies, right? So in that case, when an impediment happens or when someone raises an issue, how do you deal with them? Like, do you deal with them collectively or you tackle them one after the other?
Right. Okay. So apart from the company-wide stand-ups, each team has its own stand-up that suits its way of working. So assuming the impediment is arising from a team and that team cannot solve that impediment on its own and it has to be brought to the company-wide stand-up, that means that it's something that could affect us as like a level 1 issue that has to be addressed. In that case, then the powers that be have to bring their minds to board. And if it's something that is, let's say, not related to products per se, but maybe to individuals, so this is a staff problem, then we all are allowed to share our thoughts and come up with suggestions. And that's one of the things that I think differs a lot in the sense that feedback is proactively sought. So if there's an issue where you don't expect the leaders to be the ones to solve all the issues, feedback is sought from the people who are bringing the issue. So what is encouraged is if there's an impediment and you're presenting that, then you should also, as much as possible, be presenting a suggestion to that impediment as well, which is going to be deliberated and to elicit that feedback from others. And then in that process, we hopefully arrive at a way forward. So I think it's the whole thing about more heads are better than one. And that's really how the approach to solving impediments are. Hope that helps, Sam.
Yeah, that helped. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Okay, so the next question is, how is Agile helping fintech companies? Okay, that's a really good one. So the whole concept of fintech is financial technology. And the reason why fintech companies arose is because the traditional financial institutions had grown so big and had diversified into so many different products that customers were not getting the same kind of attention or the kind of experience that they had gotten initially. And now customers have more choice. So the whole point of a fintech is to pick one aspect of the financial services product or service that is being offered and quickly innovate around that to the point where customers who now have access to mobile phones, customers who now have access to choice, customers who want to access financial services anywhere and everywhere get that. So Agile is the process that comes in to enable fintech companies to be more faster, to be flexible, to be more proactive in being able to innovate around these services and deliver the best value to customers. If Agile companies if fintech companies did not have Agile, they would essentially be the same as traditional companies, because then it will take them the same amount of time to get a product out to market, and they basically would not have any advantage over the tradition. So what Agile does, it gives these fintech companies a competitive edge, because now they're able to get feedback from the customer, quickly innovate, experiment, fail quickly, and in that process, they're able to bring products and services to market faster and in a more convenient way than the traditional companies would. So Agile really gives these fintechs a better competitive advantage, to put it shortly. So hope that helps, Elizabeth.
Okay. It does, but Jeremy, I also have another question. It does.
Sure. Go ahead.
So the reason why I asked about this fintech company is that some companies are providing e-payment solutions to various banks and then other corporate institutions. So how can these companies also implement Agile in their system?
Okay, so if you say they provide e-payment solutions to the banks, so they are working with the banks, and you're asking how they can implement Agile.
Yes, because they also a technology firm, and I think so that's what I want. How would they use Agile to work?
Okay, so I think one of the things that he said was that as an Agile practitioner, one of the main things that you need to be able to look out for is inefficiencies in the current process. So even as a technology company, you have certain processes that you probably started with that have become inefficient and cost you time. They make you need more resources than you need. It's the onus is on the company to be able to self-assess and look at, in this process of providing e-payment services to the financial services sector, what are the things that are taking too much time, too much resources, or are costing us more than they need to be costing us? What are the inefficiencies that we're experiencing that is making us not as fluid as we could be? Once you're able to outline all of them, then you're able to break them down into the more manageable components of, okay, so if the issue is that we started off smaller and now we've gotten bigger, so now things that we're doing in minutes, we're doing in hours, what do we need to put in place to be able to revert back to doing this in minutes? Is it new technology? Is it new hands on board? Is it the way we are operating? Are we inadvertently following a traditional or waterfall process without even realizing it? And if we are, then what is the way to go around this process? Someone has even come up with, she says she calls it her biggest Agile invention, that the company was spending so much printing paper, and they realized that when they print, they always print on one side of the paper. And the thing that cuts their cost down by 50% was that they started printing on both sides. Sometimes it's even such a small thing as that, because it was something that was so obvious, but it was going beyond everybody's mind. And it's one of the ways. So Agile is not like this rigid set of rules that you follow. It's really sort of intrinsic, and you have to be able to assess the current situation and then innovate towards the desired future state. So you first assess where you are, where you want to be, and then Agile helps you fill that gap. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense now. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. So, is there any input on your HR department? Is it Agile? Yes, I would say it is quite Agile. I think it's coming from Dennis. I would say it's quite Agile, and this is the perspective of where I'm coming from. So coming from a traditional bank to an Agile environment, I think one of the very first things that I was very impressed with was the HR. So for example, I had never been exposed to an HR that was sort of a generalizing specialist, in the sense that most HR departments that I have experienced are HR professionals. So when you are being interviewed, it's always from the HR point of view. So they have a standardized set of questions. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? The typical standard. But this was the first time I was meeting an HR who actually had a lot of knowledge about the company's dynamics and its products and services as well. Plus, a lot more focus was on your motivation, your role fit, the culture fit. So the company is only going to allow somebody who is sharing some of the values that the company has into. I know it may sound very similar to traditional, but in this sense, they actually do a culture fit interview where they only focus on your culture as an individual and whether that will match with the culture of a company. So if you are somebody who they can tell, and this is just an example, most people expect that a company will train you, right? So when they're not experiencing career progress or training internally, they begin to complain they're not getting the kind of trainings that they expected. However, this is a type of company that is looking for people who are self-motivated and self-driven and proactive in their own personal development. So if it's obvious that apart from company trainings, you have not engaged in any sort of personal development on your own, obviously that kind of tells the kind of person you are. So it's one thing to be said about the HR. Another thing to be said about the HR is that they did not go by the traditional recruitment or contracting, in the sense that they would make it very clear, are you looking to work full-time or part-time, because they offer both. Do you want to work from home? Do you want to work in an office? Which one suits you? And what exactly are your goals in that sense? Which is very different from the environment that I'm coming from. And I don't want to throw shade in that regard, but it's very different. So yes, in a nutshell, I would say that the HR is very different. And the good thing about them is that even within HR, they are constantly looking for ways to improve. They're constantly seeking feedback so that they can improve their recruitment and make sure that they're giving the company the best resources they can, and also making sure that the resources that are there are also having the best experience. So I would say yes, that's a really good, yes, the HR is Agile. Okay, I think I'm losing track of the questions. Can't remember who asked that. Okay, yeah, that was Dennis. So I hope that helps, Dennis. The next one was from M. I was enjoying this talk and then my internet died. Oh, sorry. Thanks for really good and well presented talk. Really enjoying. We'll have to watch the video. Sure. I'll have it uploaded on my YouTube channel, so you can go there and watch it. Just YouTube Jeremy Quainoo, and then you'll see some of the videos. What are some powerful methods to make the team mindset visible? Right. When it comes to making things visible, I think the best way to do it is to write it down. Write it down and have it displayed somewhere that everyone can see. So I like to use the analogy of the New Year's resolution. A lot of people say they have New Year's resolution, but if you ask them to show it to you, they really don't have it written down anywhere. It's internally. And once it's not written down, I think bringing things from an idea point of view into the physical gives it some value and makes it first place in your mind. So for example, in the company, and even like in my office right now, I have a Kanban board that I've made for myself that shows exactly what I'm trying to do. It shows exactly what my values are. And every time you begin to realize that you're deviating from that line of thought, you always have this constant reminder to pull you back. So it's the same way that you write your New Year's resolution down and put it somewhere that you can clearly see it, so that each and every time you know exactly what you set out to do this year and you know whether you are on track or not. So if the team has a mindset or has values or has goals, I think it's very clear, it's very important that it's made visible and displayed such that anyone who walks in can tell what we're supposed to be doing, or even if the person is not part of your team, they can tell what your team is about. And because of that, you can constantly refer each other to let them know that whatever initiative we're doing or taking or decision we're taking is on track or not. So I think bringing that mindset into the physical realm is one of the best ways to make it more visible. All right.
Thank you, Remy. Yes, Johanna. So I would like to extend my question about how to make the mindset visible. It's more about which questions do I have to ask to get through the team what their mindset is about. How do I do it? Do you understand it?
Yes, I think I understand. I think that and this is just my opinion, so I could be right or wrong. And I don't know your team, so maybe you will be the best person. But I think for a lot of people, we tie whatever extrinsic goals we have to our own personal goals. So for example, if you just came out and said our values as a team are courage, focus, commitment, and all of that, a lot of people would try and tie that back to their own personal goals. So sometimes it's better to let it come from them. So if I were the leader of a team or in my Scrum teams, what I would do is I would try and capture, like, if a person could tell me the 5 things that they would like to be known for or what they would like to be represented by, could they list that in 5 words? So does this person want to be seen as humble, knowledgeable, kind, helpful? You list all of that down for each member of the team. And what you tend to realize is that you have a number of themes that run through. And ultimately, then you can tie those themes to what the value or the mindset of the team is. So usually I think it should come from the individual team members. Then based on that feedback, you are able to tie in those corresponding or matching themes. And then you're able to come up with what your mindset should be. Because you ultimately know what you're trying to get at, but you don't want it to be prescribed. You want it to be elicited, and you want the people to also buy into it. So once people are able to tie the line between what you're seeing versus their own personal values, their own personal mindset, then it makes it easier. Then when you write it down, everybody is in agreement, and then you don't have to keep on reminding people that this is your mindset because it came from them. Those are my 2 cents. I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. All right. The next one is great delivery, Remy. I'm excited at the progress we're making. Awesome. Thank you very much. Zuri said, you're in the banking industry and using traditional models. How easy is it to transition to Agile? Wow. So Zuri, just to be honest with you, it is not the easiest thing for a traditional institution to transition to Agile. And that is where you become one of the key elements of change, because Agile can start from one person before it marinates to the rest of the company. For traditional institutions like banks, they have been doing the same things for so long that change is usually not well received and usually requires some extrinsic force or requires some uptake from senior management. Most of the time, in my experience, you have like senior management or executives who are trying to take, like you said, you're in the bank to a level of success or proactivity or innovation. But the problem is that the people in the middle don't seem to be aligned in that sense. So that is why you usually have Agile champions, Agile coach, Agile evangelist. So for you as a Scrum Master, it's on you to try and change as much as you can within the organization. But the truth is, it's not the easiest thing to do because there are lots of impediments that can come up. But it always starts with that first person who who takes that bold initiative. If you're lucky and you are getting support from an executive in your company, understands that our current way of doing things is working slow and it will eventually become outdated. And it's important that we start making steps or taking proactive steps to get to that point that we want to get to. Then you are lucky because now you have an advocate who can also in. Also, from the bank that I was in, if you can get a team like the Akaditi team to come in, where they can show people what exactly an Agile environment looks like, you begin to see that shift in mindset and that amenability becomes easier and easier. But the truth is, I feel your pain, and it's not the easiest thing to accomplish, but it can be done because we're seeing a lot of banks going traditionally completely Agile, and we're seeing a lot of fully Agile banks coming up. All right, hope that helps, Zuri. Okay. Session, Remy. Thank you, Catherine, for the compliment. I appreciate it. Okay. Melanie says, I think companies can be agile, but we must acknowledge that sometimes we will need to take a waterfall approach to help us kick off Agile. 100%. 100% in the sense that I don't think that you should ever try and cut off Agile completely, cut off traditional working completely and transition to Agile. I feel that traditional work has its place and Agile also has its place. Now, if you remember, Agile is primarily for complexity, for managing complexity. Granted, a lot of the things that we do right now are complex. Almost every company right now is a software or engineering company that delivers a product or service, whether it's in banking, in hospitality, in healthcare. A lot of us are primarily offering services the software channel. So you see that now there's a more demand for Agile because there's a lot more complexity. However, there are still certain things that must follow the traditional approach. So most likely you will have a hybrid of the two. So it's important that you don't try and impose Agile on things that are repetitive, mundane. There are things that by their very nature can only follow the waterfall or traditional approach. Plus, you also don't want to how do I say, to create enemies by trying to sort of downplay everything that they've done up until this point with this new methodology that you're bringing in. You have to get people to see the value and see that it's a build up on what they already know and not just a clean wipe out of what they've been doing and an introduction. So it's important that you're able to make that clear distinction of what processes require Agile versus which processes must continue down the traditional path. You can implement Agile in certain traditional processes, but it's not always going to be a full transformation in that sense. There's definitely going to be a hybrid. And in most cases, there are hybrids. Even in the most Agile companies, you find that it's probably around 90% Agile adoption, but they still have the 10% traditional approach, which they are trying to transition. Okay. Yes. Next one is, please, we're mostly invited. Okay, sure. Thanks for me registration fee. Okay. Oh, wow. That's a number of questions. Annabelle, do we still have time? Can I keep going? Okay, I'll take that to mean yes. Okay. How do you guys gather feedback from customers?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, you can.
Hello, Jeremy.
Hi.
Yes, I'm sorry. I think you're going to answer the question. I actually wanted to ask the same question. How do you guys gather feedback from customers? So I think you're going to answer that.
Okay, so it's really about the kind of feedback that we're seeking to get. So for example, because we leverage on customer data and the customer footprint, a lot of the things that we really need to understand about the customer is present in that footprint, in the data. The data tells us the trends. But usually the data sums up like a large number of data points based on which we're able to interpret and come up with the insight. However, when you want to understand certain things that are more granular, like the customer's experience, like if you want to find out whether the customer is comfortable with the product, the ease of use, then you can transition from using the traditional USSD or SMS or digital channels, and you actually have to get a survey or feet on the ground. So depending on the level of feedback that you get, you can either depend on the data that you are gathering from just the digital footprint they are using of the mobile phone or the mobile telco operators network, or you can actually like leverage, if you have a call center, feedback whenever people call in for issues, or you can actually have a survey where you get a group of people to do a feet on the street, one-on-one interview to understand certain things. The only way you understand customers' need is if you hear back from them. And sometimes, like Agile says, the best sort of communication is that face-to-face, more personal interaction. So depending on the granularity of the data that we're trying to obtain, or the kind of feedback that we're trying to obtain, there's a different channel for it. So you can use social media if it's just like general feedback on performance and things like that. But if you actually want customers to open up, then you really have to invest in getting those surveys going on at ground level, just specifically towards what kind of feedback that you're asking for. I hope that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Belle. Okay. I'm seeing another one. We are a software company. I think it's from Zach. We are a software company trying to move from traditional to Agile. How do we manage the team with the transition, and how do we make the team own up the process? Right. So in my opinion, you first have to make the team understand the value of transitioning from traditional to Agile. I think the first thing is, if the team does not understand why we're making this change, the resistance is going to be even more, and it's going to be difficult to get anyone to take ownership. The team has to understand that, okay, we're a software company and we've been doing things this way, but it's not as effective as it could be. We're not as competitive as we can be. And if we want to go from this current state to this desired state, then we need to adopt certain fluid, more incremental, more, better ways of working that are going to facilitate this. Then I would also suggest that you at least allow the people, the staff, to get some training or get some insight as to what exactly this new agile process is. So first is having that discussion with them and letting the team themselves own up to the point that they accept that this current method has inefficiencies that they would like to solve, and then introduce them to this way of working and tie that to how it could address these inefficiencies. So if we're delaying in terms of our productivity, how quickly we churn out products and services, then you say, okay, it's because we're gathering requirements in bulk, which is taking 3 months. Then we are going to develop for another 4 months. And by the time we release it, if there are any issues, we have to go back to the requirement, and that is inefficient. So spelling out the process that is there, understanding what the shortfalls are, and then tying it to what the new agile process is going to be should be the first step. But they first have to understand why it's necessary. Otherwise, the buy-in won't come in. Once they get that understanding, you realize that you might even have people who are more enthusiastic about it than you, the one who even introduced it. So as long as that understanding and appreciation is there and they see how it benefits the company and them as individuals, then you have a foundation based on which you can push this transition forward. I hope that helps, Zach. Does Remy have a LinkedIn profile and can you share it? Yes. Okay, thank you for sharing. Great. I think that's the last question. Is there any other question that you want? I think I'm 2 minutes over my time.
Well done, Remy. You did a great job. Alberto from Nigeria.
Thank you, Alberto. I appreciate that.
Well done. Nice one.
Thank you. Thank you. Very much appreciated.
Hello, Jeremy.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I have another question.
Sure, go ahead.
So let's say a company is using an APS system. Could they still implement Agile in it?
When you say APS system, could you break it down for me?
Advanced planning and schedule tool.
Advanced planning and scheduling tool?
Software, yes.
Okay, so I think that, for example, so I'm assuming that your APS system is similar to some sort of scheduling tool like Access or Trello or any one of these scheduling tools, right? So yes, and in fact, the APS system can form part of your Agile methodology because that is how you plan out your activities, right? So APS system in itself is not traditional or Agile. It's how you use it that is going to be traditional or Agile. If you have an APS system that everybody has access to and we're able to update and everybody's able to see the progress and change, and in that sense, it makes work easier and makes it more, there's more visibility and the communication is more fluid, then that's perfectly fine. If that system does not work, then there's other systems that you can explore. I know the traditional one is to have a Kanban board where everything is displayed physically and you can move Post-it notes from right to left. But for companies that are, or for teams that are remotely located, you may not have access to a physical board that people can change. And that is where these scheduling systems come in. So it depends on the features that are available there. Do they allow you to change requirements? Do they allow you to move? I hope it's not just scheduling it doesn't. Forgive me, I'm not really familiar with it. But if it's only scheduling it does, then maybe you probably need a project management tool that allows you the flexibility for teams to add or subtract from the schedule of activities in there. Maybe I can do a little bit more research on the APS tool and then connect with you and then we can share ideas there, if that's okay.
Yes. I think it's good. It's a good thing. Okay.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome. All right. I think I have used up all the time that was allotted to me. It has been an absolute pleasure presenting as always. And I thank you all so much for the compliments and then the questions. I've learned as much from you as I've hoped to share. And until the next time, thank you very much. Over to you, Annabelle.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you for this lovely presentation. Okay, before we leave, we are going to introduce ourselves. I'm Annabelle Asante Jima from Accra, Ghana, and I'm the Assistant Global Event Promoter for Acaditi. Thank you. Please introduce yourselves.
Okay, I'm Elizabeth Alberta Amwa. I work with Acaditi Limited as the Agile Service Specialist. Nice meeting everyone.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
Yeah, nice meeting you, Elizabeth.
Alberto, can you please introduce yourself again? You did that earlier on, but can you do that again?
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on the part of the globe you are. My name is Alberto. I'm a certified enterprise coach. I'm in Nigeria, and I work with what's it called? Systems integrator. We are working with one of the telcos in Nigeria to deploy APIs across Africa and the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very quick one. Good morning. Greetings. Jeremy, as always.
Sensei.
Absolutely wonderful, as always. So I think that was absolutely powerful, and thanks for the presentation. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Nana. A pleasure as always.
Anyone else? Nana Yao.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Ebenezer Nkansa. I work with Acaditi.
Hello.
As the Assistant Support Service. And
thank you for joining us.
Okay. Hello, I hope you can all see me.
Abna Eyim.
Hi, so my name is
Hello,
Abna. Yeah, hi. So my name is Abna Yim. I work with the telco here in Ghana, Vodafone. And I've been a Scrum Master for one of our projects so far, so I'm still learning. Thank you.
Thank you, too. Ade. Hello, Ade. Ade? Okay, let's move to the next person. Dennis. Hello, Dennis.
Hello.
Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, so Dennis Mwangi from Nairobi, Kenya, currently acting as the regional ambassador for the Agile 20 Reflect for Eastern Africa. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Jack. Hello, Jack. Hello, Jemima.
Hello, Annabelle. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm Jemima and I'm from Ghana. Thank you, Jeremy, for a very nice presentation.
Thank you, Jemima.
Rhoda. Hello, Rhoda. Rhoda. Okay, let's move to Theodora Isola. I hope I'm right. Theodora.
Yeah. Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. So yes, you are Ishola. Actually, it's a Yoruba name. Nigeria.
Ishola. Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Excited to be here. My name is Theodora Ishola, and when we're Agile in Nigeria. Okay, I work with a team to ensure that we have a successful Agile in Nigeria, and reflects. This session has been amazing. I'm grateful that I was able to join today. Interestingly, I'll be having one tomorrow where I'll be speaking. So I hope that I get to see amazing people joining as well. So we'll have a wonderful session.
Yes, we're joining you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Theodora.
Hi. Is that Jemima?
Yes, this is Jemima.
Okay.
We'll see you very soon.
Oh, sure.
Theodora.
Okay. Hi. Hello, boss.
Great to see you. Great to have you online as well and on the platform. And it's such a great feeling to be able to connect with you. Kushe.
Thank you.
Ekaro.
Thank you.
Jambo.
Everyone, thank you so much. Thank you.
It's a castle now. It's a castle.
Oh, yes, you're right. A castle. You're very correct.
Albert, are you saying something?
It's a car roll right now because it's 11:13 a.m. in Ghana. After 12 midday to be a casson, then in the evening we say a kale.
That's interesting.
Oh.
Yes, so Ghana.
Okay, Timothy. Timothy is a postgraduate student at K University. Uchenna.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. My name is Uchenna from Nigeria. I presently work with one of the telcos here.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you all for joining us. Have a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Very quick one, Annabelle, very, very quick one. Jeremy,
okay.
We really want to thank you for the presentation and for your commitments to wanting to see the best happen for African people in Ghana and Africa. As you know, I am one of your greatest fans. I love what you do. I have so much respect for your knowledge and experience, your passion, your desire to want to keep continuously improving. And I am proud to say everywhere I go to that you're one of the leaders in Africa that will definitely transform this continent. So I am deeply grateful. And I couldn't miss this, even though I'm not able to come on this platform today, but I simply could not miss this opportunity of catching up with and listening to some of the things you said, but more importantly as well, for your contribution to the festival, the Agile 20 Reflect Festival. This is a massive platform and an opportunity for us to do some really great things from Africa. And I think long after the festival, we have a lot of really interesting things that we want to bring to your attention. So we're glad that you are one of the Akaditi associates. We see you very much as part of the Akaditi family. And as the ambassador for West Africa for the Agile 20 Reflect Festival, I just want to say, I am deeply grateful on behalf of the team, really grateful that you were able to do this. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nada, and I'm very happy to see you on the call. It gives me motivation that you're back to your usual self, at least getting there. And I really appreciate the kind words. And I'll also say thank you very much for setting the pace that we are all able to follow. I think we're all following you. And as long as you're here, we will definitely follow suit. We're definitely looking forward to all the amazing things that are coming. And I have no doubt that Akaditi is going to the world. So thank you very much, and very much a pleasure and an honor to be called upon time and time. Much appreciated.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
And please, let's keep connecting. Let's keep connecting. After all of these talks, let's keep East Africa, North Africa, Southern Africa, West Africa. Let's keep connecting, guys. Let's keep connecting. This is really fantastic. Let's keep connecting. I want us as African people and friends of Africa to keep talking. So let's not just wait for these events to happen. Let's stay in touch with each other. Have a great day. Take care.
That's a very good one.
You are very correct.
It's Ade from London. It's really wonderful to know great things you guys are doing out there. Yes, it's now an opportunity for us and Africans to sort of to fly the flag a bit more and more visible for everyone in the world to see.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let's stay connected. Bye.
Yeah, we should do that.
Absolutely. Let's connect.
Bye-bye. Yes, we will.
Wonderful. Okay, just a moment. I want to copy the LinkedIn profile shared so I can connect before the host ends the meeting.
Annabelle, don't end the meeting immediately so that the people can copy what they need and.
Okay, Nana. Okay, Nana.
I'm also sharing mine, Nana, just in case. So.
All right, brilliant. Annabelle, can you please copy that for me so that I can stay in touch with guys as well, so that if there's any more LinkedIn profiles that we can. I really do think it's important for us to have an Africa database of Scrum Masters, product owners, architects, developers, people who are Agile enthusiasts. Let's have a database. So these LinkedIn profiles would be really good for us to have of each other so that we can all stay in touch, especially when we're connected on LinkedIn. It makes it easier for Africa to organize better so that we can at least if we have a project, I can call on our brothers like Mr. Osuji in Nigeria. I can call on Theodora in Nigeria. I can call on our brothers and sisters in Kenya and other places so that we can do some contracts and create some wealth together. So let's
start thinking in diaspora as well.
And the ones and of course, our African brothers and sisters in the diaspora. It's a global database of Africans in Africa and Africans in the diaspora, so that we can, when we have big major projects in Africa, we can pull our brothers and sisters into those projects and use our talents and skills together so that we can begin to grow something more meaningful and purposeful on the continent. So for me, I think that that's the next level after this festival, that we create a global database of brothers and sisters with specific skills. I think Grace, I spoke with Grace, and Grace is also keen. She's working on this already. So hopefully when it's set up, I think Grace will make it public so that we can add our names to it, and then we can really begin to stay connected, because now that we found each other through this Agile platform, let's stay together.
That's good. Thanks very much, Nana.
Yeah, and I'm happy meeting my sister Elizabeth. She's bearing the female part of my name, Alberto. She's bearing Alberta. So it's interesting.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
I like that. Great.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Take care. Take care.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom,